So the two most common tasks that we have in a console application are typically writing and reading data. And we've already been using the WriteLine method to output data to a console window. But if we didn't want those carriage returns at the end of the line, if we wanted to be able to do some formatting on our strings, then we have to learn a little bit about how we can do some formatting with our numbered positional arguments, as well as some of the ways that we can use formatting in our interpolated strings. So you can see that I've already created a couple of variables here to get us started. So what we're going to do is write out a statement that allows us to add in some formatting, because normally if we wanted to represent maybe a dollars type formatting with a $sign and 2 decimal places. Maybe we just want decimal place precision formatting. We want to round everything to 2 decimal places. There's a lot of different ways that we can use built-in formatting in C#. So we can use our numbered positional arguments in our WriteLine statement. And I'm going to line break this out so that it becomes easier to read. So we use format to be able to kind of specify a formatted string. And these numbered positionals, they go inside curly braces. So it's a zero-based system. So whatever variable we want first as kind of a placeholder would start at 0. So we're going to say this many apples costs this much money, right, in our numbered positionals. Then we have a comma to separate out our arguments. So our first argument is going to be our number of apples. And then our second argument is going to be price per apple multiplied by the number of apples. And then you have to watch out where that parenthesis has gone. If you want to move it back to the end of this line, that's fine. It can hang out down at the bottom. That's fine too. You just want to know where it went, because 1, you have to close the parenthesis, and 2, you got to put a semicolon at the end of that statement. Now, right now, what this is going to print out, let's go ahead and run and take a look at what this prints. So we get 12 apples costs 4.20. But what if we wanted to use our monetary formatting? So what we can do inside of this numbered argument is do a :C. And if you look at the C# documentation for formatting strings, we see that a C means that we're doing currency formatting. So what we get is a $sign at the beginning, and then make sure that that's 2 decimal places. So now we see 12 apples costs $4.20. So we can use these strings anytime we want to add in and basically create or construct a statement with multiple variables. It looks a lot nicer than using the concatenation that you've learned about, which might look like this. We would have our console WriteLine, and we would have to say number of apples, and then concatenate in, make sure to put a space, apples costs, make sure to put a space, concatenate in, and then we would have our calculation, and then we would still have to deal with the formatting. But we can run this and see that we essentially get the same statement. But it leaves a lot of room for error. Concatenating in multiple variables, making sure that you have your spaces correct, then doing the formatting around this statement. It introduces a lot of ways in which you could actually make mistakes. So creating this kind of statement with the numbered positional arguments using the formatting strings is a lot cleaner. Now, the other thing that I've talked about is interpolated strings, and this is a new feature as of C#6. So a string prefixed with a $sign can use curly braces around the name of a variable or an expression to output the current value of that variable or expression at that position in the string. So this makes this kind of statement, again, a little easier to read, a little easier to write, but ultimately gives us the ability to construct something without having to concatenate a bunch of things together. So let's write the exact same thing but using an interpolated string. We're going to start with a $sign, and then we open a set of quotes. I'm going to say in curly braces, number of apples, apples costs, open a curly brace, price per apple multiplied by number of apples, and then inside, I'm still inside the curly braces, don't get confused, colon C. And then make sure to put a semicolon at the end of that statement. Now take a look at the differences here. We're essentially writing the same statement 3 different ways, right? Aside from the fact I didn't do the formatting on the concatenated string, we get the exact same thing. But we start to look at, if we had a very long sentence we're trying to construct with multiple variables, maybe multiple expressions or things that we're doing inside of there that we want to kind of all execute at once, this kind of feature really allows us to tie all those things together in a very concise statement that doesn't leave a lot of room for error. But again, I want to point out that those formatting strings, they stay inside of that curly brace, right? So we put them on the number, we put them on the value. I think this is the biggest thing, especially when it comes to operation-based expressions, other than variables, that the formatting is going to be applied to the outcome or the result of that expression. And a lot of students try to put that on the outside of that curly brace. So understanding those format strings, being able to practice with some of those different format characters, writing your strings in different ways, all of this takes a little bit of practice. Again, it is a little bit of personal preference on which way you want to write them or which type of string you want to use. But I really want you to get familiar with the different syntax ways that things can be written. Again, when you're reading other people's code or sample code that you've received through your instructor or your textbook or online, you understand and are able to kind of decipher what's happening with that syntax. So continue your practice on working with strings and formatting out your variables.